The Mysteries of Magic by Arthur Edward Waite. Introduction. The Eternal Veil. The revelation of the universal doctrine of the Magi. Concealed behind the shroud of hieratic and mystical allegories inherent in ancient dogmas, behind the penumbra and the fantastical ordeals of initiation, beneath the signet of sacred scriptures, amidst the detritus of Nineveh and Thebes, upon the eroded masonry of temples, and upon the scorched visage of the Assyrian or Egyptian Sphinx, within the monstrous and marvelous depictions that unveil to the faithful of India the sacred stanzas of the Vedas, within the arcane symbols of antique, alchemical manuscripts, and in the rites of secret fraternities, there persist the vestiges of a doctrine that is simultaneously universal and meticulously obscured. Occult philosophy stood as the nurse and godmother to all intellectual faculties, the key to divine arcana, and the sovereign mistress of society during those epochs when it was confided exclusively to the tutelage of priests and monarchs. It reigned in Persia alongside the Magi, who perished as do all who abuse authority. It endowed India with a plenitude of traditions and a treasury of poetry commingled with terror and beauty. It civilized Greece through the lyre of Orpheus. It concealed within the audacious figures of Pythagoras the primal tenets of science and the embryo of intellectual advancement, and it populated fable with miracles until history itself became inextricably entangled with mythology in the endeavor to quantify this occult potency. It destabilized or consolidated empires via its oracles. It drained the color from the visages of tyrants upon their thrones, and it governed minds with equal force through curiosity and terror. The masses proclaimed that for this science, no feat is impossible. It commands the elements, it comprehends the language of the luminaries, and it directs the celestial motions. The moon descends blood-red from the firmament at its invocation, and the dead rise to articulate through hollow craniums the ominous suspirations of the nocturnal wind. Mistress equally of benevolence and malevolence, this power bestows at will either paradise or perdition upon human hearts. It disposes of forms at its pleasure, conferring pulchritude or deformity, transmuting men into beasts and beasts into men with the wand of Circe, dispensing even life and death, and granting opulence through the transmutation of metals or immortality via the quintessence and the elixir distilled from gold and light. Such was magic from Zoroaster to Manes, from Orpheus to Apollonius of Tyana, until Christianity, triumphant over the vast dreams and aspirations of the Alexandrian school, hurled its public anathemas against this philosophy, compelling it into a secrecy more profound than heretofore. Subsequently, bizarre narratives disseminated regarding the initiates, whose very presence was reputed to precipitate calamity. Men fell slain or were driven to madness under the enchantment of their eloquence and erudition. The women they cherished became vampires, their offspring vanished into nocturnal assemblies, and whispered rumors alluded to sanguinary rites and profane banquets. Osseous remains were discovered in temple crypts. Lamentations were audible in the night, harvests withered, and herds emaciated when the magician traversed the land. Unprecedented maladies, baffling to the physician, emerged beneath their venomous gaze. A universal clamor of execration arose against magic. Its very appellation became a felony, and the fury of the populace found voice in the scream. To the flames with the sorcerers, just as they had once vociferated, to the lions with the Christians. Yet the multitude conspires only against authentic powers. It may not discern the truth, but instinct indicates where potency resides. The 18th century ridiculed both Christianity and magic, whilst adoring the discourses of Rousseau and the marvels of Cagliostro. Nevertheless, the foundation of magic is science, just as the essence of Christianity is love. And in the imagery of the Gospel, we perceive the incarnate Word adored by three magi guided by a star, the triad and the sign of the microcosm, bearing gold, frankincense, and myrrh, another sacred triplicity under which the most sublime Kabbalistic secrets are ensconced. Tradition designates these magi as kings, for initiation into magic is in itself a kingdom, and the supreme art of the magi has ever been styled by its adepts as the royal art, the holy kingdom. The star that conducted them is the blazing star found in all initiations. For the alchemist, it is the emblem of the quintessence. For the magician, the great arcanum. For the Kabbalist, the sacred pentagram. Thus, Christianity owes no animosity to magic, although ignorance has always trembled before the unknown. To shield itself from blind zeal, it veiled its significance in novel symbols, concealed its objective, and disguised its aspirations. Hence emerged the cryptic parlance of the alchemists, a perpetual delusion for those covetous of gold, yet a living language for the true heirs of Hermes. A singular fact presents itself within the sacred volumes of Christianity, for therein are included two works which the infallible Church neither claims to comprehend nor dares to expound, the prophecy of Ezekiel and the Apocalypse. These are two Kabbalistic keys reserved, it would appear, by heaven for the interpretations of Magian kings. Volumes sealed with 7 seals for the faithful, yet wholly intelligible to the infidel initiated into the occult sciences. There exists also another book which, although in some sense popular and widely circulated, is the most obscure and least understood of all, for it is the key to the remainder. It circulates everywhere in silence, yet the multitude perceives it not, and should anyone suspect its presence, he would dissipate his efforts interminably were he to seek it under any guise other than the sole one in which it exists. More ancient, perhaps, than the Book of Enoch, it has never been translated and remains preserved in its primitive characters, inscribed on solitary leaves resembling the tablets of antiquity. A learned scholar has disclosed, though few have noted it, not its secret, but its antiquity and marvelous preservation. Another investigator, more imaginative than discerning, devoted 30 years to its study and scarcely divined its significance. It is a monumental and extraordinary work, simple and grand as the architecture of the pyramids, and therefore as enduring. A book that epitomizes every science, whose infinite arrangements resolve every problem. A book that speaks by evoking thought, that inspires and governs all possible conceptions. Perhaps the very masterpiece of the human intellect, assuredly one of the noblest gifts transmitted to us by antiquity. It is a universal key whose name was elucidated by the illuminated William Postel. A unique scripture whose very first characters enraptured St. Martin into mystical ecstasy, and might have restored reason to the sublime but unfortunate Swedenborg. Of this book we shall treat hereafter, and its precise and mathematical exposition will constitute the crown and completion of our labor. Once the original alliance between Christianity and the wisdom of the Magi is demonstrated, the discovery will be of the highest moment, and we are convinced that a serious inquiry into magic and the Kabbalah will conduct earnest spirits to that reconciliation of science and dogma, of reason and faith, hitherto deemed impossible. Before advancing further, we must define magic. Magic is the traditional science of the arcane forces of nature, descended from the Magi. It unites into a single system that which is most certain in philosophy and that which is most infallible and eternal in religion. It provides the human intellect with an instrument of conviction as exact as mathematics, and elucidates the certainty of mathematics themselves. Thus, there exists an absolute in the sphere of thought and belief, and the supreme reason has not abandoned the human mind to wander at hazard. There is an incontestable truth, and there is a sure method of attaining it. Whoever observes this method as the law of his conduct may endow his will with sovereign potency, becoming lord of inferior entities and of wandering spirits. In short, an arbiter and ruler of the world. Why then, it may be inquired, is this supreme science still unknown? How, in the darkness of a clouded sky, are we to discern the presence of so resplendent a sun? The verity remains that the supreme science has never been entirely forfeited. Rather, it has endured as the exclusive property of a select coterie of intellects who understood the imperative of silence and the wisdom of awaiting their ordained hour. If, during the night, an adept surgeon were to restore vision to one born blind, how might he elucidate to that man, prior to the dawn, the nature and resplendence of the sun? Science possesses its nights and its mornings, for the realm of thought exists and evolves through regulated phases. Indeed, the supreme and absolute science is magic, the sagacity of Abraham and Orpheus, of Confucius and Zoroaster. Its verities were inscribed upon stone by Enoch and by Trismegistus. Moses purified and revealed them anew, for such is the definition of the word reveal, when he established the Holy Kabbalah as the heritage of Israel and the concealed arcanum of its priesthood. The mysteries of Eleusis and Thebes preserved certain fragments of its symbols, already mutilated and bereft of their key, buried beneath an ever-expanding superstition. Jerusalem, the destroyer of her prophets and too frequently enslaved to the spurious deities of Assyria and Babylon, eventually forfeited the sacred word, until a Savior, announced to the Magi by the holy star of initiation, arrived to rend the tattered veil of the ancient temple and to endow the church with a new tapestry of legends and symbols, which simultaneously obscure the truth from the profane and preserve it for the elect. We have observed that the church, although the guardian of the keys, does not profess to possess those of the Apocalypse or of Ezekiel's visions. To the Christian intellect, the scientific and magical keys of Solomon are irretrievably lost. Nevertheless, in the world of intelligence governed by the Logos, nothing that is written perishes. That which ceases to be comprehended ceases to exist for men, not as Logos but as revealed meaning, and transitions into the domain of mystery and enigma. Furthermore, the official church's antipathy, and at times overt hostility, toward all that falls within the sphere of magic derives from causes inherent in the hierarchical and political structure of Christian sacerdotalism. The Church must disregard magic or perish, yet it still acknowledges that its mysterious founder was greeted in his cradle by 3 magi, who were hieratic envoys from the 3 divisions of the known world and from the 3 analogous realms of occult philosophy. In the Alexandrian school, magic and Christianity nearly converged under the direction of Ammonius, Sacas, and Plato. The doctrine of Hermes appears almost intact in the treatises attributed to Dionysius the Areopagite, works of scientific merit, because they consecrate the union of ancient initiatory traditions with the Christian revelation by reconciling a comprehensive grasp of transcendental philosophy with unimpeachable orthodoxy. Synesius, one of the most eminent philosophers and the foremost poet of the early Christian centuries, outlined a treatise on dreams, subsequently annotated by Cardan, and composed him suitable to serve as liturgy for an illuminated church, were such a church to possess a liturgy. Associated with this era of fervent abstraction and passionate disputation is the philosophical dominion of Julian, styled the apostate because, in his youth, he made a reluctant profession of Christianity. It is commonly acknowledged that Julian resembled an anachronistic hero of Plutarch and, in certain respects, a Roman Don Quixote. However, it is less widely known that he was an illuminated initiate of the highest rank, that he believed in the unity of God and in the universal doctrine of the Trinity, and that he lamented only the loss of the magnificent symbols and seductive images of the ancient world. Julian was not a pagan in the vulgar sense. Rather, he was a Gnostic captivated by the allegories of polytheism, who lamented that the name of Jesus lacked the resonance of Orpheus. He paid for his inclinations as academician, philosopher, and rhetorician with his life, and because public opinion had already become thoroughly Christian, his funeral oration provoked damnatory verdicts, and his subsequent fame was sullied by ignominious epithets. Let us bypass the minor figures of the later empire and proceed to the Middle Ages. Take this volume and peruse the 7th page. Then, seat yourself upon the cloak I have spread, and with its corner cover your eyes. Your head reels, and the earth appears to swim beneath your feet. Hold fast and do not turn your head. The vertigo subsides. We have reached our journey's end. Rise and open your eyes, but make no gesture and pronounce no Christian word. We stand in a tableau worthy of Salvator Rosa, a troubled waste reclining after a tempest. The moon no longer gleams in the firmament. Yet, do you not perceive small stars dancing in the heather? Do you not hear overhead the flight of monstrous birds that whisper strange words as they pass? Approach stealthily the crossroad among the rocks. A hoarse funereal trumpet sounds, lurid torches burn on all sides, and a disorderly crowd surges around an empty seat. All glance about in expectation, then suddenly fall prostrate and murmur, "He is here! He is here!" It is himself. A goat-headed prince leaps forward, ascends the throne, turns about, and, bending, presents to the assembly a human posterior, which each person approaches with a black taper to salute and to kiss. He then rises with a discordant laugh and bestows upon his favorites gold, secret instructions, occult medicines, and poisons. Meanwhile, fires are kindled in which fern and aloe wood are mingled pell-mell with human bones and the fat of executed criminals. Druidic priestesses, crowned with vervain and wild parsley, offer unbaptized children with golden knives and prepare abominable love feasts. Tables are laid, masked men seat themselves beside half-naked women, and a bacchanalian banquet begins, lacking only salt, which is the symbol of wisdom and immortality. Wine flows in torrents, leaving stains like blood. Obscene proposals and extravagant caresses commence, and the entire assembly is seized with the intoxication of wine, of vice, of indulgence, and of song. They rise in confusion and rush to form infernal rings. Then appear all legendary monsters and all phantoms of nightmare. Enormous toads play the flute backwards with paws pressed to their flanks. Limping scarabs mingle in the dance. Crabs beat castanets. Crocodiles contrive Jews' harps with their scales. Elephants and mammoths arrive disguised as cupids and take part in the dance. The frantic circles break and scatter, each reveler dragging after him a disheveled woman. The lamps and candles fashioned from human fat gutter and smoke in the gloom. Cries ring out intermittently, bursts of laughter, blasphemies, and throat rattlings. Let us depart. Rouse yourself and do not make the sign of the cross. See, I have brought you safely home, and now you lie at rest in your bed. You are somewhat fatigued, perhaps shaken by the journey and the night. Yet you have beheld what most speak of without knowledge. You are initiated into secrets as terrible as that of Tryphonius. You have witnessed the Sabbath. You must therefore preserve your reason, maintain a salutary respect for the law, and keep a prudent distance from the church and its instruments of punishment. If you wish to witness an event less fantastic and more real, attend the punishment of Jacques de Molay and his companions in martyrdom. Do not mistake the guilty for the innocent. Did the Templars truly worship Baphomet? Did they salute the posteriors of the goat of Mendes? What was that secret and formidable association that endangered both church and state and was destroyed without trial? Judge not in haste. Their grave offense was to have allowed the sanctuary of ancient initiation to be revealed to the profane, to have again gathered and shared the fruits of the knowledge of good and evil. The sentence that condemns them proceeds from a source higher than Pope or King Philippe le Bel. As God declared in Genesis, on the day that anyone eats of that fruit, he shall die the death. What, then, is at work in the world, and why do priests and kings tremble? What covert potency imperils tiaras and crowns? One perceives certain madmen who appear to shroud the philosopher's stone beneath the tatters of their indigence. They possess the capacity to transmute earth into gold, yet remain destitute of sustenance and shelter. Their brows bear a nimbus of glory and a stigma of ignominy. One who has discovered the universal science seeks death in vain to escape the agonies of his triumph, as did the Majorcan Raymond Lully. Another administers fantastic remedies to imaginary maladies and defies the proverb that cautery is futile upon a wooden leg. Thus the remarkable Paracelsus, ever inebriated yet ever lucid, resembles the heroes of Rabelais. William Postal corresponds ingenuously with the fathers of the Council of Trent, for he has unearthed the absolute doctrine concealed since the foundation of the world and ardently desires to communicate it to them. Yet the council scarcely deigns to censure him, proceeding instead to debate the grave matters of efficacious and sufficient grace. Cornelius Agrippa expires in poverty and abandonment. He is the least sorcerous of magicians, yet the uninitiated persist in misidentifying him as the greatest, solely because he was occasionally a satirist and a mystifier. What secret do these men carry to their tombs? Why are they admired without being comprehended, condemned without being heard, initiated into dread secret sciences which church and society regard with trepidation, proficient in matters of which others are ignorant, concealing that which all yearn to ascertain, and endowed with a terrible and unknown authority? The occult sciences, magic. These appellations reveal all and incite further reflection upon all things knowable and certain. What, then, was magic, and what constituted the power of these spirited and much persecuted men? If they were so potent, wherefore did they not vanquish their adversaries? If they were weak or unbalanced, why did the populace honor them with fear? Does there indeed exist a secret science that is truly a power and effects marvels comparable to the miracles of sanctioned religions? To these pivotal inquiries we respond with a sentence and with a book. The sentence is as follows. Yes, a potent and genuine magic has existed and endures still. All that legend chronicles concerning it is factual, and in this instance, popular exaggeration has not exceeded but rather fallen short of the truth. There exists a formidable secret whose revelation has once already overturned the world, as attested by the religious traditions of Egypt, symbolically condensed by Moses at the inception of Genesis. This secret constitutes the fatal knowledge of good and evil, and its disclosure entails death. Moses depicts it as the tree at the center of the terrestrial paradise, whose roots are intertwined with the tree of life. The 4 mystic rivers issue from its foot, and it is guarded by the flaming sword and by the 4-fold biblical sphinx, the cherub of Ezekiel. Here I must pause, for I already fear I have spoken with excessive freedom. Yes, there exists a unique, universal, imperishable dogma potent as supreme reason, simple as all that is great, intelligible as that which is universally and absolutely true, and this dogma has been the progenitor of all others. Yes, there is a science which confers upon man prerogatives that appear superhuman. A Hebrew manuscript of the 16th century enumerates these privileges of the individual who holds in his right hand the keys of Solomon and in his left the branch of the blossoming almond. Aleph. He beholds God face to face without perishing and converses familiarly with the 7 genii who command the celestial host. Beth. He is elevated above every affliction and every fear. Gimel. He reigns with the entirety of heaven and is served by all of hell. Daleth. He governs his own health and life and can influence, in equal measure, the health and vitality of others. He can neither be surprised by misfortune, overwhelmed by calamities, nor vanquished by his enemies. Vav. He comprehends the reason of the past, the present, and the future. Zain. He possesses the mystery of resurrection and the key to immortality. Such are the 7 transcendent privileges. Those which follow in rank are these: Cheth, to discover the philosopher's stone; Taith, to possess the universal medicine; Yod, to comprehend the laws of perpetual motion and the demonstration of the quadrature of the circle; Kaf, to transmute into gold not merely all metals, but the very earth itself and even its refuse; Lamed, to subdue the most ferocious beasts and to know the words that paralyze and enchant serpents; Mem, to possess the numerical art that conveys universal science; Nun, to speak with erudition on all subjects without preparation or study. Lastly, the 7 least privileges of the magus are these: Samek, to penetrate at a glance the depths of men's souls and the secrets of women's hearts; Nain, to compel nature to submit whenever he desires; Thi, to foresee all future events not contingent upon a superior free cause or an undiscoverable principle; Sada, to bestow instantly upon all the most efficacious consolations and the most salubrious counsels; Kaf, to triumph over adversity; Resh, to master love and hatred; Shin, to possess the secret of wealth, to remain ever its master and never its slave, to know how to enjoy poverty itself without descending into degradation or misery. Thav, add to these 3 septenaries that the sage rules the elements, stills tempests, heals maladies by touch, and restores the dead to life. Yet there are matters which Solomon has sealed with his triple seal. The initiates understand that this suffices. As for the rest, whether they scoff, believe, doubt, threaten, or tremble, of what import is it to science or to us? Such are the results of occult philosophy, and we are justified in braving an accusation of insanity or the suspicion of imposture when we affirm that these prerogatives are real. The objective of our entire treatise on occult philosophy is to establish this truth. The philosopher's stone, the universal medicine, the transmutation of metals, the quadrature of the circle, and the secret of perpetual motion are therefore neither the delusions of science nor insane visions. They are terms to be interpreted in their genuine sense, denoting the manifold applications of one secret, the diverse facets of a single operation more generally designated by the appellation of. Do you want access to this and all the complete audiobooks on the channel, plus the ebook version? Click the link in the description or scan the QR code in the left corner of the screen to access our library, where you can listen to your favorite esoteric books without ad interruptions, lock your screen, or use other apps while the narration plays, and even download the ebook version to follow along as you listen. Listen on your computer via web browser, or download the app from the Play Store. After subscribing, you will receive an email with your login details, password, and step-by-step instructions on how to access the books through the Hotmart app.